And it opens up that space for them to actually tell this story on camera. Stories often resonate more with listeners than factual information.
That's why
alone.
Tay does it all the time. So Tay just gave you the prime example of that. He told a story of, hey, if Shamar came in here, XYZ, this is how you handle it. And if you listen to us, very often when I'm asking Tay questions, he will start with the story first because that resonates with people. They can follow along with the story better as long as we ain't talking about color science. I'm just saying.
Welcome back to another episode of Charlotte Podcast.Studio. Is that right? Did I word that right? That's what we're going to go with for this episode. Welcome back to Charlotte Podcast.Studio.
I was thinking, like, did he say it right? Yeah, you said it right.
Yeah. So for the third time, welcome back
to Charlotte
Podcast.Studio. I'm Tay. I'm the studio manager here at Charlotte Podcast.Studio.
And I'm Shamar, Tay's trusty sidekick. What's that?
Boom, just like that. So this episode, we are going to cover a crucial aspect of podcasting. Once you get to the point where you are no longer doing things just by yourself, you have people that you can bring on, you have to know interviewing skills and how to host your guests.
Absolutely.
That sounds
Yes, indeed.
So like we always say, if you're just starting out, we don't recommend going straight into interviews and having guests unless you already have a major following on other platforms as a influencer in other realms. So if you're a seasoned podcaster, I don't know why I'm having to clear my throat so much.
Hey, you got some water right there, bro.
Yeah, and
so you go ahead and handle that. I'll finish bringing us in. Go and get you some water. Listen, like you said, being a seasoned podcaster, or if you're just starting out, we all need to master the skills of interviewing guests and hosting them within our space, right? And the first part about that is preparing for the interview and actually selecting the guests, right?
Right.
We good? There we go.
Right. So one of the very first things you want to do when you're preparing for interviews and selecting your guests, research your guests thoroughly. Don't just see somebody somewhere. For instance, with me and Shamar, right? I'm not going to say, oh, he's a photographer. Let me just bring him on. And then which we'll probably get into later in this episode, I script everything out for photography, but come to find out, Shamar does a very specific niche type of photos.
Yes. I photograph cats.
See? So my script can't be about landscape.
Or weddings. Right.
Or dogs.
Yeah.
Because he likes cats. You know what I'm saying? So research. Shamar's a dog person.
Yes.
Let me go ahead and put that out there. We both have dogs. But that's another subject for another day. But before you hit record, do your homework. Research your guest's background, their recent work, and any relevant topics they've discussed. It all makes a very big difference. That way you don't invite somebody on there just for clicks, just for views. What else do people do stuff like that for? What you call that stuff? Forget it, because I don't even know what the word is.
But I do want to jump in there because I want you to think about it like this. The same way y'all be out there dating and you find somebody you want to talk to and you go out there and stalk their social media so you can learn about them. I mean, it's the same difference. You need to know your guests. You need to know who you're talking to because you want to make sure. I know that was wild,
but it's true.
I had to wake it up a little bit. That's what y'all be out there doing. And then you have your friends go on their page and stuff too, because you don't want them to see that you was on there, all this crazy stuff. Right. But seriously, you need to research the guests and understand who they are. And that's going to serve several purposes. First is, hey, do they align with your podcast? Do they align with your brand and the theme of what you have going on? If you check that off, the next thing is, hey, what's their personality like? what kind of episode do you think you're going to get? Is it going to be more inspirational? Is it going to be more entertaining? Or is this just going to be something that you educate them on? And you will learn all these things. And then the one thing that you will learn all these things by, researching them. But one thing that I think is very crucial that you gain from researching someone is that you have a good understanding of who they are. So you're showing respect to them, and you're showing a nod that, hey, I'm interested in you. Same thing with dating. If you know a little bit about people, they're going to be like, oh, they really showing effort. They really showing interest. And by doing that, showing that effort and interest, that is going to make it a lot easier for that conversation to flow. Because if you are saying something, you learn something about one of your guests that nobody else has ever asked them in an interview, and they like that, like, oh, that's going to make them engage with you even more. So get to know the people that you want to bring on your show.
Yeah, and I'll say research their past interviews and public presence to confirm they're a good fit, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And to go a little bit deeper into that, knowing what questions were asked on their past interviews will let you know what you can and definitely should not ask. Right. And once you go through this whole process of picking out this person, definitely ask questions beforehand. You don't, or even send them questions beforehand so they can be prepared if they are that type of person. Because some people, they're just like, hey man, I don't care what we talk about, let's just talk. But other people like Kelly Rowland, she doesn't want to hear you asking her questions about Beyonce.
Don't ask her. Stop asking her that. She gonna flip out on y'all. She's already been borderline there. She gonna flip out.
She done already walked off stage, left the whole show. But you have to know what questions you can and should not ask. And I'm wording it correct. Don't ask personal questions if they don't talk about their personal life.
Exactly.
And if they're not the type of person that is going to give out what we call free game, don't even ask them that. Just stay within your realm and make sure that in the process of everything, you define your goals for the interview with that person thoroughly and correctly. Clarify your intentions. I feel like I said that wrong. I'm going to leave it alone.
This guy.
So decide if your goal is to inform, entertain, or inspire the audience. What is that person mostly known for? If they are mostly known to educate somebody, you could put inspiration into that. But if they don't crack a lot of jokes, don't expect them to crack a lot of jokes.
And if you don't like jokes, don't have me on there because I'm going to crack them.
And that's what I was about to say, because we crack jokes. Don't have us on there. We can't make you smile. If you just want to sit there and just be blank face, we're not your people. We're not. I'm going to let you chime in. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
Like you said, defining those goals, and understanding what your intention is, because that's going to shape the questions that you ask. If you wanted to lean more towards entertainment, that's kind of the questions that you are geared towards. If it's inspirational or if it's actually to educate or inform, that shapes the questions that you're going to ask. And you need to prepare with key questions as well. What are some of the highlights? Listen, to go back to Kelly Rowland with her chocolate self, I know you're married, Kelly, so relax,
We love you, Kelly.
We love you. Seriously.
Don't tell my wife.
You what'd you say? Hold on. What was the last one?
I said, don't tell my wife. Look, my wife already. I said, girl, I had Kelly, but I chose you. Go ahead, girl. She know. My wife know. See, we got jokes. Don't have us if you want to be playing.
Right. I forgot where I was going. Hold on. Oh, develop those questions. So, like Kelly, we already know the questions to stay away from. But even in that, we know the typical questions. They ask about, how was it with Destiny's Child? They're going to ask about, some of her solo project work. If she's out promoting something, you have to talk about that project that she's promoting. And then people tend to ask about, the family and things like that. But what I want to do, I want to get something that's out of the box, something that they're not even prepared for, something like, hey, what is your favorite food, or something, just getting to know them, getting a little small piece of them that will catch them off guard, but in a good way, or talk about maybe a project. So you looked at one of their previous videos, or seeing some of their social media, and a project that they thought was maybe didn't get the hype that it deserved, and you could connect with them on that. Hey, I know that you personally like this particular project that you did. Can we talk about that a little more? Because they never got a chance to really talk about it before. So that is something that could separate you from others, and you can probably get more authentic responses from them.
Yeah, so that's pretty much like preparing your key questions. Once you prepare your key questions, make sure you have a flexible outline. With your flexible outline, just draft up a list of questions and topics you want to cover and be ready to deviate just in case that person goes left. And
especially if you're going to interview Tay.
Because we're
going left.
We're going left. And with that, it's like that person might actually say something that a lot of people really want to know about. And if you literally just stick to your questions, like if you really listen and you pay attention and you did your research, some of your guests that you're interviewing will actually set you up to ask the next question or to make the next statement. And if you're just interviewing this person to say, oh yeah, I had so-and-so on my show, they might say, look, I understand we didn't sign a contract. Don't put that episode out. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like you put me in the best light. And that's another thing. And I don't know if we get into it in this episode, but when you put these questions together, make sure you put these questions together accordingly. Don't have them on your show to embarrass them.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if that's
don't play with people.
Look,
don't
and I'm the one
playing with people.
I'm the one that prepared the notes. I don't even know if that's in there, but I just feel like that needed to be said. So draft up your key questions. When you do your key questions, prepare a list of main questions and topics to cover. That way you have a structured guide for the conversation. Again, this is not a rule book. This is just to keep the conversation flowing naturally. Make sure if they do deviate, if they do go left, make sure you're paying attention. Because I know when I go left, Shamar got to pay attention so he know how to either bring me back or understand where I'm going when I go left. Because I might just be making a U-turn. I'm in the cul-de-sac out here, homie. I'm just saying, at some point, I got to get out this cul-de-sac and keep it moving. But with that too, be ready to adapt. Allow space for spontaneous questions based on your guest responses. All of this is you making sure you have your set list, but don't make this the only list of questions. Like, for instance, past episodes, I'll say something, and then Shamar's like, wait, explain what that is. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So now I have to go left with this conversation intentionally, and then Shamar might have to remind me where I was before I made this left turn. But be ready to adapt with your key questions and understand everybody is not just going to answer your questions the way you expect them to.
Absolutely not, because everybody is individual. You could have the same set of questions lined up for Tay and myself, and that conversation is going to go completely different because we are two totally different personalities and we think differently. I like to call it napalm. Not all people are like me. So even though you may have designed your...
Say that one more time. I don't think they heard you.
Not all people are like me.
And we ain't.
Sure ain't. But, listening to them and allowing them to help guide the conversation can lead to more dynamic discussions, and it could lead to a more genuine connection with the viewer. Now I want us to dive into some of the techniques of conducting an engaging interview. First things first.
I will say this before you say that.
Pop-up freaks. Oh, I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to sing the song. It was in my head, but I wasn't going to sing it. You made me forget.
My bad.
So the topic is, what was the topic?
Which one? The one we're going to go into that you stopped us from?
Yeah.
That's conducting the interviews. Conducting engaging interviews.
Engaging interviews. And you said something out there. I don't remember what it was, but either way, if you actually listen to what we go over, that's what it was. I was getting ready to hit the first key point because it was on my mind to say so.
Gotcha.
So you have to really listen. Like sometimes we have a script, but we not on that script.
Because I don't read it. I'm sorry.
See what I mean? But in seriousness, like you really have to listen so that way you know how to follow up. Because again, when I go left, Shamar has to be listening to something in there to bring us back to see where I'm trying to get to, or to find out that I made the wrong turn, and there is no coming back. And my GPS don't work. You know, I forgot where else I was going with that because you got me over here tripping now. But definitely actively listen. If you are not listening, you're gonna miss so much, especially when you're interviewing someone that is more of an informative, or that person that talks a little slow, or
I
speaks.
know about that.
Yes. Or speaks. I don't talk that slow on most days. Or that person that literally gives you genuine information and speaks in, I guess, metaphors. So you have to listen to a whole paragraph to understand one thing, i.e. me.
Yes.
You have to listen.
Yeah.
You have
and
to
then,
listen.
like listen actively, right? And then follow up, because you could have asked a specific question. They answer that question and then they go, down a different path that's not necessarily the path you wanted to go on your next question, but follow up on that. Hey, like Tay said, I'd be like, hey, dig into that a little bit more, because here again, we're wanting authentic, genuine, dynamic discussions. So that the way y'all go may not have fit your particular script, but it could be the right way to go and to give you some buzz word or something that is now going to take off, and that's what people connect with. So, yeah.
And I will say this too, in the process of this active listening, yes, you have a podcast and you're trying to cover a certain amount of information within that. But if you are actually actively listening and following up with questions and statements and, oh, I never knew, or, give us a little bit more, that guess, I would say, it depending on how you have your podcast, just let it go. It could be a 2-part, 3-part, 4-part interview.
Right.
Think about like Drink Champs or Club Shay Shay. Sometimes you like 2 hours, man. Okay. Other days you like 2 hours. Who's watching that?
Right.
So imagine if that was broken down into 4 30-minute episodes, or even 2 1-hour-long episodes. You're a little bit more intrigued. So make sure that you don't rush through it. Focus on what their answers are. Pay close attention to what your guest is saying. It doesn't matter what your next question is. This shows respect and helps you ask more insightful follow-up questions. I just thought Shamar was going to have something to say.
Because you need...
I opened the door too soon.
Exactly. So, the follow-up questions, we already talked about that, and then just clarifying, because I could ask a question, and you just a little bit vague on it, and I want you to go in a little bit more, pull a little bit more out from them. So ask a follow-up question or a clarifying question. Hey, do tell more, Another thing that you can do is verbal cues. When someone talks like Tay, you all will hear me often be like, yes, I see. That's very interesting, Tay. That keeps him talking. Y'all don't hear me say that because I be trying to reel Tay in. But, the uh-huhs and, oh, yeah, I see. If you say things like that, oh, that's interesting, and then you just really show that you're connected, that's going to get them to want to give you more.
I will say, even for us, I guess you can call them physical cues. So, like, right now, I'm going to go to the wide shot. Okay, so in this wide shot, we're both lean back, right? We're both laid back. Mostly because we just got done eating. But
right.
in this process, like me grabbing my mic and bringing it a little closer, Shamar's like, okay, Tay about to go deep.
He about to talk.
He about to go somewhere. But if my mic is still out and I lean up and I do one of these numbers, Shamar knows I'm about to say something. He might not know exactly what it is, but he know I got something to say. And Shamar does the same thing too. Or,
because when it's time to wrap up, I'll push my mic out and then I start grabbing my book bag and stuff, and Tay know it's time for me to go.
And then I know he getting ready to leave, and I'm like, so who gonna put all this stuff up? So
not me.
Right, me neither. Look, I'll get it tomorrow. So when you have these interviews, you go through these verbal cues of letting them know that you're there, or even what I just call them, your physical cues. you know, when you have your questions or you're quote unquote interrupting, anytime you ask the next question, make sure it's not simple yes or no questions. Ask an open ended question. Because if I say, hey, Shamar, how was your day today?
It was good.
Simple. It's a simple question. But if I'm like, hey, man, you got anything planned later on today? He can easily say,
Oh, what's that
something.
in there?
Something
Yeah, man, I'm going home to hang out with my cats,
that he doesn't
and watch
have,
true crime.
that he probably does. So make sure that you ask open-ended questions. This encourages the guests to elaborate and share their experience. And that's mainly what they're on your podcast for. They're not there for yes or no questions. They're not there to answer a survey. They are there to educate, entertain, or influence someone else, or just because you like that person and you want to know more about them. But make sure you encourage detailed responses. Open-ended questions, invite your guests to elaborate. That's the biggest thing you want them to do. Don't give them questions that are short. And if they start giving you short, figure out how to deviate from that. Because this can lead to a richer, more engaging content, more engaging conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
and to that point, how do you get them to engage a little bit more and make it? I keep using dynamic discussion. You can ask someone, a creative, hey, did you like working on this particular project? They're not going to be able to give you much. Yeah, that was a pretty good project. But if you ask that question in a different way, for example, what made working on that project rewarding for you? Or what was rewarding about working on that project? That lends into giving you more. So always think of designing your questions around making the discussion more dynamic.
yeah, I'm deeply thinking.
See, I dynamically just stunned him. He doesn't know where to go from here because I've gotten him. It's from his script, though. I
Yeah,
just
it's
read
from the
it.
script. Sometimes I write these scripts though, and I'm going on the side note. Sometimes I write these scripts and I'm like, okay, I know in this place, and this place, I'm probably gonna go left. So if I already know that, let me slowly start reeling myself back in days or weeks at a time. I mean, ahead of time. Other moments, I'm like, Shamar's gonna say exactly what that script says, and then we're on to the next point. And then he's like, and I'm like, we ain't got that far yet. Like that's at like bullet point number 3. We still in 1, but I don't say anything because it's the worst thing you can do is cut somebody and say, "Hey, wait, whoa, 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 whoa." That's
Are you
like
checking
question.
me saying that I didn't follow?
No, what I'm saying is, I'm getting to the point that sometimes your guest is gonna go. You might ask question
Yes.
1 and they're already answering
He's
question
showing
number
y'all
20.
real life examples of how dealing with a guest is.
Look, we do this all the time because I show be like, "No, dog," and Shamar be like, "Up, scrolling up," and I'm like, "But I'm still on that bullet
No,
point." He be
we're
like,
done.
"No, you're not."
We're done.
Like, if you really pay attention to our faces, and I'm pretty sure people really gonna start paying attention now. If you really start paying attention to our faces, you can kind of see. I'm giving Shamar an eye like, I don't know what we doing next. You need to scroll up. Or he might give me that eye like, you need to stop talking so much. And just pay attention. Don't pay too much attention. But to get back to this, create create a comfortable environment.
That's my
And
lane. That's my lane. That's my lane. Y'all, I got this. Listen, you want to make sure that you are creating a space to have that dynamic discussion. When our clients come in here, book us at charlottepodcast.studio. When they come in here, my thought is we're delivering white glove service. We want to make you feel comfortable. Oftentimes, there are people that come in that have never been in front of the camera before, or they're not that comfortable in front of the camera. Listen, they might be comfortable public speaking in front of crowds and everything, but then come in our space. Now you have 3 cameras pointed at them. You have these lights that are blasting on them and stuff. They may feel a little bit, nervous or like, hey. So we create that comfortable environment. 1, it smells good in here. We have the right temperature going. We have their water, whether it's room temperature water or chilled water. Chilled, yes. We cater to that. And that just automatically makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. And then we engage with a little bit of small talk, ask them, hey, did you find us okay? Find the location okay? Oh, yeah, driving here was a breeze. I hope traffic wasn't too bad. And especially if we know them, we can ask them questions. Hey, how's the wife? How's the kids? Now they're ready to sit down and get the job done. You want to be able to do the same thing with your guests as well. You don't want to immediately have them come in, hey, how you doing? And press recording to get to it. No, it's like a dance.
When I move, you move.
Just like that.
Left foot stomp, right foot stomp. Don't get it backwards because you're gonna stomp on somebody's toes. Right. Don't do that. So yes, have that casual conversation and explain the process. Make sure that your guest knows how everything is going to flow.
That's right.
Be transparent about it. Don't be like, oh, you don't know. This is your space. You come here. We're going to say, okay, well, this is what's already done. Once you sit down, we will definitely get your lighting correct. And then we will do a mic check with your voice. This is us explaining and having small talk at the same time. So as I go and readjust the light, so how was your day? How have you been? How did you feel? How did your guests feel about that last episode? Oh, okay. Well, what guests do you have in right now? And I'm asking this question as I'm saying, okay, now bring the mic closer to you. Instead of me saying, I need a mic check, they say, mic check, 1, 2, mic check. Because we know that's not how they're going to talk. So you ask this casual, like, just bring the mic a little bit closer to you, and they'll bring the mic closer. But yeah, so like the last time I was here, you guys did this, and I really enjoyed that. My guest, da-da-da-da-da. Because we're explaining the process, doing the process, and they're opening up a little bit more with this casual conversation. And in that process, we're encouraging them to tell us a story about whatever. Now, with them telling us this story in the process of me making them comfortable, we do the same thing with their guests. So if I was Shamar's guest, or if Shamar was my guest, he'll come in. Hey, how you doing? How was your day? I'm Tay. Nice to finally meet you. Da-da-da-da. Man, I saw your post. Da-da-da-da. And it's like, and let them continue to talk, and then let them give you this story. Now that you gotten this story from this person, you can sit down and say, before cameras were rolling or before we started recording, we were having a conversation about. So I feel like that was something very intriguing. Can you explain that or go over that with the viewers and the listeners? And it opens up that space for them to actually tell this story on camera. Stories often resonate more with listeners than factual information.
That's why Tay does it all the time. So Tay just gave you the prime example of that. He told a story of, hey, if Shamar came in here, XYZ, this is how you handle it. And if you listen to us, very often when I'm asking Tay questions, he will start with the story first, because that resonates with people. They can follow along with the story better, as long as we ain't talking about color science. I'm just saying.
Oh, I'm going to leave color science alone. I went left on that one. I forgot we was doing a podcast, y'all. But hey, people liked it. People got it. So, it's cool. And with that being said, make sure you have proper etiquette and you have your legal considerations taken care of when you're featuring your guests. Because
I'm the lawyer. I play one on TV. I don't know why I keep doing that to you. Is that rude? Don't put that in.
It's going in there. Y'all see that hand? Y'all see that? He gave me the daddy hand. Shut up. That's what he did.
So this is what you need to consider when we're talking about etiquette and legal considerations. Yes. Seriously, you want to obtain consent. As a photographer, as a videographer, make sure you cut the camera to you when I say a videographer, not me.
Say it one more time so I can get this
as a photographer and videographer, we have to get consent from the people that we capture, right? There's model release forms. There's actually venue release forms as well for you to shoot at people's venues, and then you want to do the same thing with your guests. You want to make sure that you get their consent. It's a simple document. Hey, you consent to be on our show. We're going to have this type of conversation. You want to detail it as much as possible so both of you all are understanding. Now, this is a protection for you and for your guests, right? And because in that documentation, you are going to clearly state that, to Tay's point earlier, we don't want to make nobody look bad. So you're going to state in there that, hey, this will be used for this purpose, and it is to capture you in your best light. I'm just using that as an example, without getting into legal jargon. But yeah, it's the protection for both of you all. And then also copyright considerations can be included in that as well. Hey, who owns the rights to this? How can this be licensed out? Where would it be going? Everybody is aware and everybody is up to par with that. Another thing you need to do is respect people's confidentiality. If someone is telling you something, because like we are saying, you need to have engaging questions so that you can have dynamic conversations or discussions with people. If they, get deep in that conversation, be like, hold on, let this be off the record. Please respect when they say have it off the record. That helps you build trust in the long run as well and help you get credibility for your podcast. Because if they said that, they wanted something off the record and you published it anyway, okay, the word gets out. Other people are not going to want to interview with you because you're releasing confidential information that you should not be releasing. And depending upon how influential your guests are, whether they're celebrities or high social media figures, then they will probably be sending you a list of things that you are not able to ask, in interviews, or things that they want to avoid, things that they need to make sure it is not being discussed for the protection of their brand. So respect that.
Which goes back to your key question outlines, which goes back to your open-ended questions, which pretty much goes back to everything that we've already covered in this episode, honestly. And, make sure that your edits are as clean as possible. So if we're sitting here and it's like, oh, by the way, I'm going to cut this out, and I really mean I'm going to cut this out, which I don't ever say. We keep everything, make sure that you really do cut that out. It's about integrity. It's about, like Shamar said, it's about trust. It's about making sure that you don't make yourself look bad in the process, because there are people out there that will intentionally make somebody look bad. That's their whole MO.
How many times have y'all been on social media and there's a clip that goes viral from something that a celebrity said and the culture gets in an uproar? But if you listen to that full interview or the full context of it, you're not as mad anymore. Like, oh, that's what it is. So to Tay's point, when you're editing, be courteous, be professional in it, and do not misrepresent anyone's words or the context in which they said something. Yeah. Now, you also need to ensure that you provide proper credit and compensation if that's applicable. Some people do charge for interviews. Some people actually pay you to come on your show, depending upon who's bigger or who gets benefit from it. But whatever you all agree upon, you're giving them credit. Make sure you credit the right person. You tag their platforms in your post of the interview and things like that. You also want to make sure you discuss whatever compensation. If the compensation could be in-kind gifts as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be cash. The compensation could be, hey, I'm going to insert one of your commercials or ads within the podcast. Make sure you honor that. If you say, hey, I'm going to provide a link to your website where, you sell your product, put their link in there. Anything that you say to them and you all agree upon, make sure you honor that. That's going to help, again, build credibility with you and establish you as a respectable journalist, if you will. What you got to take?
I got nothing.
All right.
I don't think I have much of anything, but just give credit where credit is due.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest thing. If you are supposed to pay that person to come on there, be respectful and pay that person before they get there. Because I know for us to show up, I'm going to be real with y'all. I ain't even going to put Shamar in this. But if you tell me, What happened?
Look like all them cameras blurred. Maybe that's my eyes. I don't know. It looked like it though.
Ain't nothing moved.
Okay, cool.
We're gonna find out in a minute.
Sure long. Maybe that's my eyes. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yo.
So I don't even know where I was at. I drew a blank. Oh, I know for me, I was saying about compensating your guests. For me personally, if I show up, let me dial back. I'm not showing up until I got that final payment, unless we've agreed upon beforehand that you would pay me afterwards, either after the shoot or after the final edit. If I say, hey, I need this money by this amount, by this point, I'm expecting to have that. And I can guarantee you, me personally, ain't got nothing to do with what we do here, but me personally, I'm not showing up until I got my money.
Trying to figure out how to get this money by tomorrow.
Yeah. That's it.
Listen, man. Having guests on, interviewing guests on your podcast would be a great way for you to grow your podcast, great way for you to connect with other people and get more exposure to others as well because you have those guests on your podcast. Make sure that you're properly researching and ensuring that they align with your goals, your mission of your podcast, and also make sure that you understand who you are speaking to so that you can help make it a more genuine conversation. Create a comfortable environment for your guests so that they feel comfortable and they can have more authentic dialogue, and make sure that you are honoring all agreements that you all discussed prior to the podcast. I hope this was helpful. If so, give it a thumbs up. If it wasn't, tap that thumbs down 2 times.
2 times.
Get in the comments and say, what up, though? What's the, if you made it this far, what they gonna put in the comments?
If you made it this far, keyword to put in the comments is gonna be, I'm gonna say 35, because this episode is probably about 35 minutes or so. Put down in the comments 35. I don't care if you write it out or put just 3 and 5. That is the word for today. So again, hit that thumbs up, hit that thumbs down button twice if you didn't like it. Follow us on, subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. You already here on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Follow us on Instagram at charlottepodcast.studio. We are on TikTok at charlottepodcast.studio. I couldn't put the period. They wouldn't let me put the period in there. Our email address is info at charlottepodcast.studio. Our website, charlottepodcast.studio. And I don't think I'm missing anything that I need to inform y'all of as far as getting in contact with us.
Mm-hmm.
So on that note, I'm Tay. I'm the studio manager here at Charlotte Podcast Studio.
And I'm Shamar, Tay's trusty sidekick.
And we out.
Peace.
Peace.